Hey everyone, me Kevin here. Yesterday I summarized the latest updates on stimulus. So if you haven't watched that yet, go watch that. It's got some asterisks in the title. Check that out. It's only 6 minutes long because we're going to build on that in this video. So in this video, I'm going to respond to some questions and add some more detail. So one of the questions that came up was regarding funeral costs for COVID and a reimbursement of up to $7,500 for those funeral costs. Do cremations get included in this? And the answer is yes. Just make sure you keep all your documentation, death certificates, and anything related so that hopefully when this bill passes, we can actually get reimbursements for this. And obviously, I'm very sorry for your loss. Regarding the date and timing of the stimulus package, there were a lot of comments about this. And unfortunately, this is not me making excuses, but yes, I saw the comments of folks saying, come on, this bill could be passed in a day. What's taking so long? I'm going to give you Congress's excuse. Congress's excuse is because they're going through the budget reconciliation process. There are way more committee processes and hearings and amendments. Basically, every step along the way takes way longer when you use budget reconciliation to pass a bill. This is why it's taking so freaking long to get this bill done that should have honestly been done the, last week of January. It's going to be a little bit longer, unfortunately. Currently, the committees are working through what's known as the markup phase for the stimulus package. This is where each committee goes through and says, well, we want to do this, or what about this, or what about this scenario? Let's write this in. This phase is expected to complete by February 22nd. The bill can then be voted on in the House and sent on over to the Senate. Hopefully, the Senate will be able to debate on this bill between March 1st and March 5th. And if the Senate then amends this bill, then it'll go back to the House. The goal overall is that the bill eventually gets done before March 14th, March 15th, right around there, the middle of the month, which is where the unemployment benefits expire. Now, this brings up another comment that came up a lot yesterday, and that was that the $15 minimum wage was included by the House as maybe a poison pill to basically prevent this bill from ever passing. There's this fear that essentially this $15 minimum wage is just going to hold this bill up. And this is a very legitimate concern. The beauty about the process that's being worked on right now is the House is kind of just including the minimum wage, hoping that it'll happen, but the Senate might end up amending it out. It's going to come down to what the parliamentarian says in the Senate. This is somebody who's responsible for the rules in the Senate. And basically, in order to have something in a budget reconciliation bill, the item, like the minimum wage, would have to affect the budget. Well, the Congressional Budget Office came out yesterday and said it does affect the budget. The minimum wage change will increase the cost of government spending and decrease the cost of government spending in other areas. So in some areas it goes up, in some areas it goes down. For example, if the minimum wage passes, Social Security costs will go up. Unemployment costs will go up because there's going to be more unemployment, but SNAP program benefits will be less expensive because people have more money and less people are actually going to be eligible for the SNAP program benefits who are currently eligible for the program. See, the goal here is to as long as minimum wage affects the budget, it should be passable in the Senate. If it's not, though, the Senate Democrats, like Chuck Schumer this morning, have already said they would be willing to just remove the minimum wage item from the bill entirely and then pass the rest of the bill. Biden's already alluded to this as well. Actually, he bluntly said it. He didn't allude to it. He doesn't think the minimum wage is going to happen, but he's going to try. But he's not going to let the minimum wage stop the entire COVID relief package from passing. That's at least what they're telling us, all right? That's just what we're hearing. We all know how Congress and words go with Congress. But anyway, worst case scenario, it seems like we might have, and hopefully not, but worst case scenario, we run into a delay. So rather than getting this bill done by March 14th, March 15th, the Ides of March, which is when unemployment pay expires, we end up getting this bill passed between March 15th and 31st. That means there will be an unemployment cliff where people aren't getting that federal boost for a couple weeks. There's that real potential of going 2 weeks without unemployment pay. But as long as the bill gets passed by the end of the month, we'd be able to get back to work. Maybe there'd even be retroactive pay for those 2 weeks that would get missed. I would say the end of March is really a hardcore drop dead date because there's a 2-week recess coming up at the beginning of April. The last thing we want to do is have a 2-week recess. Congress comes back during tax season. It'd be a complete disaster. Could it happen? Yeah. I mean, just look at 2020. But Democrats have a lot more power and control right now than they did in 2020, right? Everything had to be bipartisan then. Now Democrats can kind of run the gamut. So those are the timing goals. Now, there was a question that also came up a few times yesterday in the comments. I read your comments, and I try to ban as many of those scammers as possible, so stay away from those scammers. Don't send anybody money, okay? Well, with the exception of signing up for the courses down below with the coupon code HODL. Don't send anyone money. Like, if somebody says, give me $500 in Bitcoin, and I will give you $10,000 back in Bitcoin, it's a scam. Bitcoin does not work that way. Anyway, so the question that came up a few times was, hey, Kevin, I've already filed my 2020 taxes. How do I get the child tax credit? So the child tax credit, if it gets passed, well, first of all, on your 2020 tax return, you're probably already getting the child tax credit. It's just the $2,000 one. It's the smaller one if you have children. The new tax credit, the $3,000 up to $3,600, that is actually going to be on your 2021 tax return, but the government, via the IRS, is considering sending these payments out in advance starting in July to the same place you got your stimulus check. So either by direct deposit, ideally direct deposit, or by mail. So again, same place you got your stimulus check. And your eligibility would be determined with the same tax information you submitted for your check. So as long as you make less than $75,000 as an individual or $150K as a married person, you would get the full benefits of this child tax credit. Okay, so just a few points of clarity here, just to make it as clear as possible. You get $3,000 per child that is between 6 and 17. In July, and remember, this is part of your 2021 tax return, but in July, you would start getting $250 per month for a child that's eligible for $3,000. So you start getting that $250 per month. If you have a child that is under 6 years old, and you're under those income thresholds, $75K and $150K, you'll get $3,600 a year, but you'll get that advanced in the form of $300 per month per child that is under 6 years old. There's also Romney's plan to have a larger child tax credit of $4,200, but that's not getting attention right now. So take Romney's idea and put that on the shelf for right now. And then there's also a tax credit for child care and dependent expenses. That's different. So there's the $3,000 and $3,600 per child based on the age. That's one thing. That's the child tax credit. But then there's the child care and dependent care tax credit. That gives you $4,000 as a tax credit, up to 50% of the expenses that you spend money on, right? So let's say you spend $2,000 in childcare expenses and you have less than $400,000 of income. Well, if you spend $2,000 in childcare expenses, you would be able to claim a $1,000 credit because it's 50% is the credit you would get. Up to $4,000 for one child, up to $8,000 for two children or more, and you have to have less than $400,000 income to be eligible. So again, that's like 99% of us, right? Then there were questions that also came out about Joe Manchin's resistance to the stimulus check package. Remember, Manchin really wanted stimulus checks to cut off at $50,000 for an individual and $100K for couples instead of $75K for individuals and $150K where the phase-outs start, and then the hard cutoff at $200K for couples and $100K for individuals. Anyway, Manchin wanted tighter restrictions, right? So far, the only update we have from Joe Manchin is that he is, quote, just trying to make sure that people getting checks are people who truly need them. That's all we have from him. We don't actually have a response from him on these new cutoffs, which are $75K and $150K, same as before, but they go to zero once you're an individual making $100,000 or a couple making $200,000. We haven't really gotten a response from Joe Manchin on that yet. So still up in the air. We'll see. We'll see if he ends up, complaining about the minimum wage or what he ends up complaining about. Also, one thing that is frustrating is the fact that the $200 per month Social Security boost is not anywhere to be found right now, even though that was something that was outlined in Joe Biden's plan back when he was campaigning. There are also some Democrats, Senate Democrats, who spoke this morning, including Leader Schumer. They spoke about stimulus and the impeachment. I watched the whole meeting. It was like 23 minutes long. It really wasn't worth watching. Schumer just doubled down this morning and said, hey, we can handle a fair impeachment trial, appoint cabinet members, and deal with COVID relief at the same time. We're moving full steam ahead on our big, bold package. Okay, dude, like, tell us when it's done. Ron Wyden also spoke and said that with this COVID relief package, it would take, well, without it, it would take 5 years before unemployment is back to where it was a year ago. But with it, we'll get there much sooner. Also, House committees begin voting today on markups. Again, we plan for those markups to be done by the 22nd, but House committees are working on this. K through 12 schools that are getting $130 billion will also be required to reserve 20% of their funding to remedy learning loss among students stuck at home for a year. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to get paid out, so we'll have to pay attention to that. Bernie Sanders is pretty pissed off at the Congressional Budget Office for their harsh analysis of the $15 minimum wage. That would increase to $15 by 2025. Bernie really expected more favorable numbers, and he was surprised that the Congressional Budget Office wasn't only enthusiastic about it. And he's skeptical too, so we'll see where that goes. On housing, in December, roughly 5 million Americans didn't make rent or mortgage payments. This is really a lagging indicator because I know we're in February. But anyway, that does reflect more than 5% of renters and mortgage holders who still did not make their payments in December. Could be forbearance, could be a big part of that. On inflation, Tom Barkin at the Fed does not see inflation concerns for Biden's stimulus package. Instead, he suggests that we may have deflationary forces that are happening to the point where the stimulus package we do just helps offset deflation, doesn't actually cause inflation. We'll see. Then on impeachment, the impeachment trial begins today. 4 hours will be dedicated today for debate starting at 1 p.m. Eastern time on whether or not impeaching a president who's not even president right now anymore is constitutional. That is what begins today. Well, there's the update. Make sure to get your free $30 with M1 Finance by going to metkevin.com/M1. Get your free stocks with Webull by going to metkevin.com/Webull and check out those programs linked down below and the HODL coupon code. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.